What's up, people? So, this is our second episode of our behind the scenes look at how we're making the game, and we're making Halen. So we're going to be talking about pre-production today.
Yeah, so pre-production, basically what it means, in terms of a game at least, is where you figure out your idea, and then you do your research and start building the game at a bare minimum level, so we're making a prototype.
Yep, we're going to have a look at some of the stuff that we're doing there, what each person is participating in bringing to that, and a couple of the challenges that come along with game development, because let's face it, it's not easy. So, enjoy.
So, starting out, we were kind of in a toss-up between sort of the format the game would take. We were set on more or less on the mechanics, but we didn't know whether it would take the form of an arena, more of an arena or survival game, or a multiplayer or a story mode. So settling on story mode was maybe not necessarily a change, but a major direction decision that we made. Another thing we've done is to change. Is a lot of smaller steps moving towards changing the game to fit the main character's play style, which is to be very quick, agile, acrobatic. And so we've been focusing on making the character feel like that's what they're supposed to be doing. So we took out the blocking mechanism we were going to put in favor of damage reduction based on how fast the character's moving. Also damage reduction based on, when the character's rolling stuff. So rewarding the player for moving around, as well as having a few opportunities while trading off that agility.
Right now, my biggest priority is working with sort of a temporary set of static meshes in Unity to build demo environments that I'm going to work with our prototype in, to get a sense of scale and get a nice visual palette that we can work with. That's the level design side of it. The project managing side of it is making sure that we're staying on track as we reach the end of pre-production in August. We need to make sure that we have everything done and ready to go for the start of fall.
So right now I have pretty much all the backstory done for all the characters, what the characters are, the world, and then the overarching story, and then the themes of the game. And right now I'm trying, the next step is to take all that and start writing dialogue for our voice actors to say and for our characters to say in the game. And hopefully with that it's going to help a lot with gameplay, just for people playing the game to understand who they are, what they are, and what their purpose is in the game. And that's really important to telling a story-based game like we're trying to tell.
I'm currently working on the second pose for Halen, for when we send out a lot of the art and information about the game to the internet to see what feedback we get. Going forward, I'm going to be doing less art and more programming. I'm going to be starting with putting the art style into the engine, seeing how it can work and look, and then I'll be moving on to helping Andrew with actually the AI and the gameplay programming.
Currently, I'm working on finishing the polished, ready-to-model concept references for the robot characters, as well as looking into how to properly implement and, adjust and manipulate the animations once they're in engine.
So aside from, website and marketing and all that kind of stuff, I've also done a quick model of a first draft of the model for the gun based on David's final concept, final polished piece of concept. So that's like the top, the front, and the side view of the gun. So I've made a Maya model of that. So that's the first draft of it, because we're still going to tweak that around and really get it ready to animate and stuff. So it's not actually ready for that, but it gives us a good idea of what it'll look like, what it's, just how it looks in 3D. Because from 2D drawings to 3D, it can drastically look different depending on what it is. In this case, I think it's a pretty accurate representation of David's original drawings and what we were aiming to have. But that's what I've done so far. I've also looked into Unity optimization, so hopefully the game will run, so you don't have the most powerful computer in the world. You can actually run it on a pretty okay computer.
That was a problem we had before, right?
Which is a problem we had with Darkside. we discovered that 10 frames per second. Whew, that was awesome.
So far, I think the project is going pretty damn well. Our last projects as groups, as a group of friends, have been good, and they usually end up done at the end. But if it wasn't for a lot of luck and misused time, or misplaced time, I should say, source control, we would actually have most of what we were working on done a lot sooner. So to have as much as we have done now in just the first 3 months of production is incredible. And it certainly brings a glimmer of hope that we might actually have this thing done by April 2017.
Overall, I'm pretty happy with how things are going. The music and the story, they're slowly crawling forward. I'm not happy with where I am with the theme yet, but I think I'm getting close there. I've made like 5 kind of concept art tracks. I'm not sure what the right word for music would be, but that's basically what I have. And I think the next iteration is really going to be really getting close to the theme that we want. And then as far as writing goes, I'm obviously going into dialogue next, so I really need, which is a muscle that I haven't really stretched all that much. I've written a lot of stories, but not a lot of dialogue, so I'm going to see, once I move back to Ottawa for August here, I'm going to be working with the team, maybe Nick or David, and we're going to try and write some dialogue for our characters to say, and hopefully then with that in place, we're going to get some voiceover artists, or what are they called? Voiceover actors.
I think we're doing like as good as can be expected. Maybe not as good as we had planned to do, but I think we were a little optimistic with how fast we planned to get things done, given that like all the other things we had to do, like I've got a job and other things, but I think the project's going well. We've got a good team. We've got a lot of good arts, a lot of good writing, environment design, the whole thing. Once we actually start up the year and like we're all working in the same room and we're all just kind of like, we got like set times each day to work on it, I think we're gonna get a lot done.
We had maybe a bit of a shaky start getting our momentum going, but now everyone seems to have an idea of what they need to do and when they need to do it. So I think we're doing much better than we have been, and well within what we estimated.
On the whole, I'd say the project is not in a bad place. I think we could be farther, but at the same time, I think we could also be a lot farther behind. For me personally, I know that's true because like I get a lot done in the small amount of time I spend on the project. So while I am more or less on schedule, I know that I could be very, very far ahead of schedule if I'd actually, put the effort in and didn't have work and stuff like that.
Just, spend entire afternoons doing SFA.
So far, I think one of our biggest problems has been not necessarily keeping on track, but keeping communication on track. Naturally, as the project manager, I try to keep everybody talking back and forth and make sure everyone knows everything. Or at least I know everything from every person, so I can tell the people who need to know it what they need to know. But it's the communication's somewhat broken down at different points, particularly when things get busy. Everyone gets focused and stops telling people what's happened. We've fixed that certainly in the last few months, so that's fine. But that's been sort of one of the biggest challenges, at least for my specific role. That's been the biggest challenge thus far. The other thing too is our decision making is not the greatest. We figured out a system. It's a great system where we come up with something in a big list and we say what it is and go around in a circle and go.
Oh wow, that one turned around.
Nice high pitch going now.
Tribal Punch Studios.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Is that yours?
Yeah.
And somewhere between those indescribable, weird sounds comes a decision. I don't know quite how it works. Somehow it has worked thus far, so I'm not going to bother messing with it.
I'd say the primary problems are more everyone reaching an agreement in a concise amount of time. We tend to kind of flip-flop on certain ideas and really push it to the last absolute possible moment before we finalize it. But I mean, that's just kind of how we all work together. Ultimately, we always get it done on time. So I think, other than that, we don't have any severe problems.
So working at home away from the team has been interesting. I've had to Skype in for meetings, which can suck because sometimes my internet is just useless. It'll cut out or stuff like that, or they'll be trying to explain a point and I can't see it during our meetings. But I've been making most of the meetings, other than a couple weeks where I was off the grid at a camp up in the mountains. But yeah, things have been working not too bad. It hasn't been awful, and I've been able to work, I think, a lot more on the project by working at home, and because I've been painting, it only takes like half a week, and then the other halves of weeks I have to work. So I've been getting like nice full days just to focus on writing and doing stuff like that. So that's been really nice.
I wouldn't even say it's a major issue, but one of the things I've noticed that we've all kind of been doing is not kind of owning our main roles. So, you know, we spend a lot of time sort of dallying on rather small issues that could be solved by whoever's in charge of that category. So a lot of concept art that we spent weeks trying to make decisions on could have been just unilaterally decided by a single member who was in charge of that. So, you know, the 2, 3, 4 weeks we spent on trying to figure out a final design for the gun could have just been David saying, all right, this is the design we're going to use, and it would have been probably fine.
Just that near the beginning, it was more of just everyone understanding what the game was. It's really hard to come up with an idea, and then once you come up with it at the beginning, everyone starts getting their preconceived notions of what they think the game will be, and you kind of have to shove everyone into the center to try and line up what that one idea of the game is, and finding out whether that idea is even good, and then tweaking it. So I think we all have a pretty good idea of how it's working right now, but we're going to need to do get some feedback from outside sources to really see if it's even that good. We're pretty happy with how it is right now, so I think people are going to like it.
I think, given that we've all been working at home separately, I think we haven't been able to build up as much momentum as maybe we have with other past projects, when we were all able to every day or every second day meet up, discuss, kind of motivate ourselves. So motivation, I think, has been, at least for me, it's been a big trouble, and I think it's been a trouble for a lot of people to say, well, this is what I have to do, and I'm going to sit down and do it right now. I'm not going to leave it until an hour from now, and such. Yeah.
The most pertinent difficulties I'd say that I myself am going to face are actually getting proper animation references outside of actually mocapping it. So basically, for everything that we can't motion capture due to, I guess, athletic limits on ourselves, and seeing as none of us are really the acrobatic type, we're going to have to hand animate quite a few things, which will require very detailed references to properly manipulate the rig to make it look realistic.
I think we're doing pretty well, and by the end of the summer, we will have everything, if not everything, probably like 95% of it done of what we actually planned on having. And looking back on the timeline that we made, I think it was in March. Yeah, I think in March, the timeline that we briefly made within the hour, we were like, all right, can we do this? Sure, let's try it. And I think we're going to be able to do that. Despite having to maybe move things around or move things back. So I think it's going really well. So we got this, and we got this. I can play one of it.
So, did you learn something? Hope you did.
All
A
right.
little bit about pre-production, some good stuff. So, as you can see, obviously, it's not quite as easy to make a game as one might think. There's a few challenges. Some are part of the group, some are part of the development process, but that's fine, because we make it past that and we go on to production later. So, stick around. We got a couple more of these to come, focusing on a few different areas. Drop a like if you like what we do. Subscribe if you want to stick around and see the rest of the project.
Because there's a lot more coming.
Yo, yes. Now Slither. problems. We have a handful of severe problems.